EA Sports College Football 25 released their toughest places to play list for the game this morning, and it's one of the toughest lists I've ever had to look at. Now, we're going to release ours here shortly and point out where we think they're wrong, but the most concerning part to me about the list is either you were disingenuous to create an engagement firestorm, or you are clueless about one of the most important things in college football, home atmospheres. Now, if you were being disingenuous, which I would actually prefer, the truth is you don't have to fabricate interest in this game. It's one of the most anticipated video game releases of my lifetime. You're going to make a boatload of money off of it. This game is not a hard sell. You don't have to reach. It was a part of a lot of our childhoods, and we're chomping at the bit to get it back, whether you got an Xbox or a PlayStation. Now, there was obviously no consistent criteria followed here. It's a mishmash of contradiction. If there was some semblance of a main factor or a main criteria, then I could give you some breathing room, but there isn't. Now, some of the worst parts of this list, which you can see on your screen here, and I'm going to read if you're on audio, are as follows. Number one, not having LSU as the number one place to play or the toughest place to play should be a felony. Everyone who's being honest, regardless of fan affiliation, knows this. Number two, Bryant-Denny and Sanford Stadium are incredible venues, and they have won a ton of games there. But having them number 2 and number 5 just isn't correct. Number 3, Kyle Field is very loud and hostile, but it is not the toughest environment to play in. They've lost 18 home games in the last 10 years. Number 4, having Wisconsin in the top 10 almost made me spit out my drink. Yes, it's a great environment, but they should jump their ass around between probably 12 and 15. And lastly, having said all of this, not having Neyland or Jordan-Hare Stadium in the top 10 may be the worst part about this whole thing. And if you don't believe me, just ask Joe Burrow or anyone with a functioning brain. The reality is there is no perfect list, and that's not what we're asking. But what we do ask is at least be rational, logical, or somewhat close. And this list is not any of those. Hanlon's razor states, never attribute to malice that which can adequately be explained by stupidity. Now, for the sake of this new video game, I really hope it's malice. And if you need help, please reach out, because we want this game to be as awesome as possible. And this list, this ain't it. So let me read their list first, then we're going to get our list. All right, here are the top 10 toughest places to play on the new EA College Football 2025 video game. I'm going to go from 10 down to 1. 10, The Swamp, Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. Number 9, Doak Campbell Stadium, Florida State. Number 8, Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium. It's Oklahoma's. Camp Randall's, Wisconsin's. Beaver Stadium, it's Penn State's. Sanford Stadium, it's Georgia's. Ohio Stadium, that's Ohio State's. Tiger Stadium is number 3. Yes, you heard that right, LSU. Bryant-Denny Stadium is number 2. That's Alabama. And number 1, Kyle Field, Texas A&M. I'm going to bring in my co-host, former Michigan quarterback, whose team is not on that list, but I think we can make a rational argument why they're not in the top 10, David Cohn. And then my brother, who I know is 13 flavors of pissed about this, Blaine Crain. David, again, I don't think it is possible to put together a perfect list where you can't make arguments, oh, this team should maybe be 5, this team should maybe be 6. But I don't think they were even close here, man. I don't think you were in the ballpark in any point of this. And if you're trying to just generate clicks, then you did it, but you didn't have to do it.
Yeah, by perfect list, you mean to make everyone happy.
To make everyone
happy. You
happy.
can't create any sort of list that's going to make everyone happy, but what you can do is set some metrics for your list and then abide by them. Can you bring that list back up, please, that you had up there? I mean, nothing frustrates me more in list making than when you don't have any metrics and you're not sticking to them. This is what caused so much controversy in the college football playoff rankings that we just saw this past year. We're squabbling over, different things way down the list in terms of injuries with quarterbacks. We're not even abiding by some of the metrics like undefeated teams that we've abided by for decades now at this point. So it says the toughest places to play, right? It's not coolest environments or the largest number or even just the loudest. I mean, I agree with you guys. I don't know how you don't have LSU at the top of the list. We've done this segment before in terms of toughest places to play. I think you could sort of objectively have that. But what was the ranking or the record you said for Texas A&M?
Texas A&M, I believe I saw this, is 24-20 in SEC games at home since they joined the SEC. But like if you said, you know what, Jake, we are just going to put the loudest stadiums, the loudest, and you put Kyle Field number 1, okay.
I don't think that's
okay,
fact.
okay.
That's wrong.
I can understand if we're going off just pure loud. Not saying I agree with it. I think LSU should be number 1 regardless, but I could see maybe a logical argument. But if you were going to say, all right, that's the reason we put Kyle Field number 1, there's no way Bryant-Denny is number 2. In fact, Oregon should probably be in the top 3 in Autzen Stadium when you look at the decibel levels. So you didn't just go, oh, this is the loudest, and you didn't say, all right, we're going to go on who wins the most at home, right? That is the main factor. If that was the case, then I could see Bryant-Denny and Sanford Stadium, right, being up there as high as possible. But you didn't do that because you put Texas A&M number 1. Blaine, to David's point, there is no criteria here. Do you think they did this on purpose to get everybody talking about it and or pissed off, which worked, even though I don't think they needed to do this? Or are you genuinely concerned that the people that are responsible for making this game really may not know a thing about how college football really is?
They're not football people. They're programmers. That's what they are.
But you can ask. I mean, you don't need
There's no need for NCAA, the new game coming out that hadn't been out since 2014, to try to grab any more attention than they already have. This is the biggest game release since hell, I don't know when. But nothing about this, is what David said, nothing about this seems correct. There's no criteria behind this at all. Because if it's going to be the loudest team, who's the loudest team in college football?
LSU.
Oregon.
Well, from a decibel standpoint.
That's how you test loudest. So factually, it would be decibels. So Oregon would be the loudest. Alabama, tough place to
nightmare to play because Alabama's a really good team,
but not a super loud stadium, right? It's really, I wouldn't even put Alabama probably in the top 3 in the SEC. So these aren't football people. I'm not surprised by this. I'm not surprised. I think they think this is factually true, all right? Because they don't know football. They're programmed. They make video games.
See, I hope again, back to Hanlon's razor. I really hope this is malice. I really hope they're like, you know what? Let's put some rival teams in there and leave some other ones out that's going to really upset anybody. But again, you don't have to. You're Michael Jordan. You ain't got to reach. You don't. This is one of its kind. The first release of a game that has been gone for a decade. It's just amazing to see the level of incompetence of this list. Again, I'm not asking you, I don't know how to go in there and make a digital game work or make the B button spin. I don't know that, but you don't need to have that degree to go in there and say, hey guys, listen, at Brainasium, like here's the top 10 list of the hardest places to play, right? This is what you need to put out there, and we'll let you put the wires together and connect the batteries and all that stuff. But when you look at it, Michigan not being on there, David, you made the case of, I understand why they're not in the top 10.
I wouldn't put it on there. And I mean, one of the biggest factors on what makes a place tough to play is how good the team is that you're going to play. I mean, we were having a great conversation about this earlier. It doesn't seem like they stuck to that criteria either. We had a great conversation about this. Just take 2 ACC teams. You brought up Virginia Tech. I brought up Miami. Like, I would rather go play Virginia Tech. I think most years, apart from when Michael Vick's running out there at quarterback, Virginia Tech is an easier team to beat. And Miami traditionally has better athletes and is a tougher team. But Miami can hardly pack half their stadium. Virginia Tech is a really tough place. Intimidating. Like, intimidating is the right words that I think that we should use.
I agree with that. To your point, I would rather go play a 7-0 Miami team on the road, so at Hard Rock, where Miami plays, then go play a 3-4 Virginia Tech team in Blacksburg, right, with that nightmare environment at night. Not that Miami isn't, a better team, but I would rather play them on the road than play Virginia Tech on the road. I'd rather play Virginia Tech at home and then go to Miami. But again, and this is not a knock. People say, oh, well, you're an Auburn fan. You're mad Jordan Hare's not on the list. You can ask Alabama fans. You can ask LSU fans, you can ask Tennessee fans, you can ask Florida. Jordan Hare is a top 10.
Yeah, I don't think you can say that while
we're
out here screaming to put LSU at number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm saying I wouldn't put Michigan on this list.
Yeah. No,
Again,
yeah, it's just
the criteria is not the most traditional stadiums. The criteria is, the list is not top 10 stadiums in college football you have to go to before you die. I'd put Michigan on both of those lists. Cool plays, traditional plays, all that. It's toughest places to play. And if we're following the logic of most intimidating, again, just from an architectural standpoint, what makes Michigan Stadium be able to be the largest is that it goes out instead of up, right? It's the bowl shape of that. The stadiums that go up are the ones that you limit, in attendance, but they keep the noise locked in there. And then also just from, the type of fan that comes to the Michigan.
For sure.
Like, and they're not, like, look at the type of fan that goes and supports Michigan at the Big House, and look at the type of fan that goes and supports LSU.
Yeah.
Completely different. Right? It's just
again, no Neyland Stadium. I've coached against them in that stadium. I would put South Carolina Stadium ahead of Wisconsin.
They have a cool stadium.
And listen, I'm not saying it's easy to play at Wisconsin. Camp Randall's a cool place. It's not the number 7 toughest place to play. I think it's disrespectful to have Penn State at 6, especially when they got a whiteout going and they got it cooking in Beaver Stadium over there. So we came up, and we want to know what you think. Hit that subscribe button. The phone line's going to open at 2:45 p.m. Central. It's 1-855-236-3228. Here are our top 10 toughest places to play. Let's start with number 10. Texas A&M, Kyle Field.
Respectable.
I think it's a top 10 environment. Not that they're going to go in there and win every game or they've had a ton of success. That is a very loud and hostile place to play. It is not the hardest place to play.
And it's a tough place to play regardless if Texas A&M is good or not.
Yeah, because they show
That's
up
how much
and show
they
out.
care, And there's a lot of programs, like Nebraska. We've talked about Nebraska like that, too. Even Florida State at Doak Campbell, like, they're going to show up and care even if Florida State's not
Exactly. All right, number 9. Alabama, Bryant-Denny. Top 10 place to play. What makes Alabama's environment so tough is that Alabama is so damn good. It's the same thing with Georgia. Not that Bryant-Denny isn't loud. It's loud as hell. It's crazy as hell. But it is not a top 2 environment, our toughest place to play in college football in aggregate. So we have Bryant-Denny, number 9. Number 8. Clemson, another team that was not in the top 10, right? The other Death Valley. Clemson is a very, very difficult place to play. Yes, does Dabo look goofy as hell running down the hill? Yeah, he does. But you pull any coach, and we know coaches, all right? And we've asked and we've talked to him before. Clemson is not an easy place to play at all. It's incredibly loud. And we talk about A&M being a cult. Clemson's a cult, too. We're going to be honest. If you're not a cult, you're in trouble. All these schools are. Let's go to number 7. Oregon, Autzen Stadium, was not on the list in the top 10, which is nuts.
Factually, the loudest stadium in college football.
And
that's louder than LSU Stadium?
Decibel level-wise, it's now LSU Stadium caused an earthquake before, registered on the Richter scale. Yeah. I'm not saying that it's never been louder. LSU Stadium's never been louder, and there's a reason we have Oregon 7, but it is incredibly loud. A lot of it, you were talking about how Michigan Stadium is built, out so the noise escapes. Oregon's was built to keep noise
I think a lot of it has to do with how close you are to the players.
True, yeah. I mean, it all goes into it.
If you're talking about decibel level, that's measurable, right?
Yeah.
Like, clearly, we're measuring that. So is that like the loudest decibel recorded in a stadium in history, or they just have like a higher?
Well, since they've been recording it, I think average-wise, it is.
Yeah, I probably think the loudest would be the LSU game.
It's got to be. We can look it up.
Yeah. There's got to be one where it's registered loudest. All right, 6. Ohio State.
Yeah, kind of the same thing with Alabama, right?
Yeah, like it's incredible environment. I mean, OHIO, we've seen it. I've watched it. It's absolutely nuts. There's a ton of people that they pack in there. We do agree. They had Ohio State, I think, 4 on their list. We have them number 6. I don't think that's a crazy thing at all. All right, number 5. Auburn, Jordan-Hare Stadium. Again, you can say bias if you want, but you could ask any Alabama fan, Auburn at night. We talk about it being just where magic was invented. All right, and again, has Auburn had the best team lately? No, not even close. They lost to New Mexico State last year. But Alabama lost to Louisiana Monroe in Nick Saban's first year, right? Like, it's not just about a one-off game. It's about overall. It's an incredibly tough environment to play.
Same thing with what David brought up with Nebraska, these other teams. Even if Auburn's not good, Auburn fans will show out.
All right, number 4, Florida, the Swamp.
Crazy.
Nuts. Crazy. Another stadium that's built.
Has it fallen off lately, though?
I don't think the environment's fallen off.
Does Florida show up if they're good or bad?
Yeah, they show up if they're good or bad. They show up. They do.
I think so.
Number 3. Tennessee, Neyland Stadium. We'll just let you know, number 5, number 3, number 7, and number 8 were not even in the top 10 of the EA Sports top 10 toughest places to play on the game. All right, it's going to have direct effect to how you play. Neyland Stadium is a madhouse. It is a madhouse. If aliens landed during one of Tennessee's home games, they would think this was the asylum where all the crazy people are. Now, that's before they go to LSU. All right, we're going to get to that. You can probably guess who our number 1 is. But Tennessee deserved to be in the top 10, and it's a damn shame they're not. I watched them throw a goalpost in a river a couple years ago.
One of the only out of 2 stadiums that you can watch the game by boat.
They got their own Navy.
Don't know what the other one is?
Washington. All right, number 2. Penn State.
Yeah. Man, Penn State's so cool.
And you know this personally.
The night games, the whiteouts is the coolest environment that I've been in, man. It's hostile.
Say what you want about Penn State. Can't get over the hump against Ohio State and Michigan. It ain't the fans' fault. That whiteout is one of the coolest experiences in college football. And then number 1, and this is simple. This is like knowing that Willy Wonka's got the best chocolate factory. It's LSU, dog. Like, it's LSU. When I saw that LSU wasn't one on their list, I knew it was blasphemous. It's borderline criminal, felonious.
And it's not like, oh, it has to be a night game.
No, LSU.
None of these places, it could be 11 o'clock in the afternoon. They'll be just as drunk as they would be at 8.
Yeah, I saw somebody say, oh, LSU's mid during the day. Are you kidding me? Are you like, what? Either, if you believe that, either you just hate LSU or you really have no idea about college football.
All right, here's the loudest stadiums. This comes from tickpick.com, a list that they made. Number 1, Washington. Husky Stadium. Husky Stadium reached a level of 133.6 decibels during a Washington Huskies game against Nebraska in 1992. It remains the loudest college football game ever recorded. This level of noise could cause serious eardrum damage. So that's just, that's based on
that's a level. Spike of the highest recorded.
Number 2 recorded Clemson, actually.
Should be in the top 10.
3 is LSU.
Yep.
This is decibel level. I don't know that I have the reached 130 decibels. Oregon 4. 5 Virginia Tech.
We almost put Virginia Tech on this list.
126.2 decibels. 6 Kyle Field. 7, again, this is just loudest. 7's Neyland. 8 Beaver Stadium, so Penn State. 9 Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. And then Michigan, they have Michigan at 10 right here at 110 decibels. And they say the same thing. Michigan, not one of the loudest stadiums because it's shaped like a big bowl, making it hard to keep the noise.
When you pack that many people in there.
But 114,000.
Yeah. So again, we're not. There is no perfect list that's going to make everybody happy. You can make logical arguments to move around some of the pieces that we have, or even add 1 or 2. But it's not as egregious as the one we just read, and I hope during these updates that it gets fixed, or maybe EA Sports will reach out to people who understand how to try and make the game as realistic as possible with the toughest environments. Hey, YouTube, what's up? We are getting close to football season. I know it's kind of a drag right now. Love Major League Baseball. Really not a ton going on in the sports world, but stick with us because we're going to have it covered like a fat kid at a new bakery opening.